everyone, welcome to Lauren's Scraplot in Season 6, Episode 10 of the Great North American Stamping Show. I am very excited this week to show you a project featuring the Delicate Pines Bundle and Designer Series paper, and I hope that you are following along with our series because we have a very fun set of cards for you this week from Lisa, Jodie, Julie, and myself. If this is new to you, this competition, just so you know, I have put the links for 3 other demonstrators down in the comments below because I would love to encourage you to go and check out their videos after you've watched this one. You're going to watch all 4 of them and then come back and vote for the one that you think should win for the week. Regardless of who you're picking to win though, we do love to hear from you. So please feel free to put comments and just tell us where you're from, tell us what you're working on. We love to touch base with you and it just really warms my heart to hear from you. So let me know where you're from, who you are, and yeah, I look forward to stamping with you. So for our competition, we pick a layout from the Holiday Mini Catalog. This week we chose page 24 and 25. And how this works is we can pick whatever layout we want and we can do to it whatever we want. We just have to explain that to you guys. So for myself, I decided to go with this Designer Series paper in the background kind of focal card. So I personally am not very good at just having Designer Series paper without some sort of a frame. So I had to put that onto a card base. But of course, if you want the Designer Series paper to kind of speak for itself and be the only focus, you'll cut this designer paper as your background instead of the card base that I'm going to tell you about. And then from there, I just decided I really love the focus of those flowers and foliage and the nice embossed sentiment. So that's what I did for my card. I did a little snowflake and then of course some greenery and pine cones and some embellishments hidden in there. So I'm going to walk you guys through how to recreate this card. If you'd like to focus on just watching and enjoying, you are more than welcome to. If you'd like to follow along, I have put the measurements in the description so you can click that pause button, or I'll give them to you as we go as well. So a few things that you're going to want to cut and have prepped before we even start assembling, because it's going to make your life very easy. Let's start with these little pine cones here. So if you open up the Delicate Pines bundle, then you're going to find these adorable little guys here. So I cut those out with the Earth and Tones metallic paper. If you have any sort of copper paper, bronze paper, whatever, any of that will work too. So you need 3 of those guys. Then we need a little bit of foliage, the stuff back here. That's actually this one piece here. So when you cut this piece out, it's going to give you 2 sides. So it goes kind of under your snowflake and pokes out both sides instead of you having to cut 6 of these out to actually finish the card. So I love that feature. You'll need 3 of these in order to get all the way around your project, and that is the large one there. And then I'm also going to get you to cut your snowflakes out at the same time. So if you have the Designer Series paper, you can cheat a little bit if you want, and you can use this large die and this large die to actually cut snowflakes from your designer paper. The dies fit right over top of those. There's 1, and there's 2, and then we can use these snowflakes for our project. If you don't have the Designer Series paper, you'll have to A, substitute something for the background, and B, do a little bit of stamping, which is no problem. So then you'll just mount your large and your medium snowflake. You'll stamp them up either with maybe a pretty peacock and just do a little bit of extra touching with the old olive. You could do shaded spruce. You can do whatever snowflake colors you want, or you could even emboss them. It would look gorgeous if you did a white embossing powder on top of a shaded spruce or pretty peacock cardstock. Okay? World's your oyster. You guys do what you want. This is your card too. So those are your options, and I just kind of had mine cut and prepped. So beyond that, then we do also have to do, of course, a little bit of cardstock and paper prep. but we'll do that as we go. So those are the main little pieces that you need. And we're gonna start with a pretty peacock card base. I know it's a little different because we've got shaded spruce here on the front, but I wanted something that tied in with the paper that just wasn't completely matching. So I also did try a cherry cobbler background. It looked great, but I wanted a gender neutral card a little bit more, and I thought the blue worked with that. So pretty peacock, we are cutting this at 4 1/4 by 11, putting a score mark at 5 1/2, so that this will make you, in the end, a card that opens and closes on the vertical, like so. Always when we have a card with a cardstock base and it's dark, we're going to need something for the inside. So I did a piece of basic white that is 4 by 5 1/4. Later, of course, if you're stamping snowflakes, which we're going to do a little bit here, you can always come back and maybe add a few snowflakes to the inside of this card too. But that is completely optional. And maybe you have some extra designer series paper when you're done playing with this package. It's also an option to come back and add that in. But for now, we'll just add the base and you can decorate later. Okay, to the front of our card, here's where you're going to grab a piece of designer series paper, whether it is from this set or not. It's totally fine. I'm sure we all have some sort of foliage and greenery pieces in our collection, but look at this one. Look how pretty it is. It's got some nice snowstorm looks on the back. So I have cut this piece 4 inches by 5 1/4, and I'm just attaching it straight onto the front of the card. No dimensionals under that, because I am putting quite a lot of dimension under the other parts of my card. So just a little bit of flat adhesive. Please feel free to use seal or glue if that's your preference. I'm just a double-sided tape person, so this one has barely a border. Oh, I should say, I told you guys 4, but I think I might have been a little bit more generous to myself. I think I made it like 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, just because I barely wanted to show a border, but it's going to work either way, whatever you guys ended up doing. So, oops. This is the problem when there's barely a border. It's hard to get it on when I'm doing this in front of me. So, oh, that looks good. Okay, there we go. There's our card at the moment. Now we need to do a little bit of work on this front decal piece. So we're going to move our base out of the way, and we're going to focus on this green piece of shaded spruce. Now, I have a measurement in my head, but I am wondering if I had changed it. No, I didn't. Okay, I'm correct. There we go. So it is going to be 3 1/2 across, like so, 3 1/2. And then we're going 4 3/4 down the height. Thought maybe I changed it. If you would like, you can do a little bit of background stamping to kind of elevate this piece of cardstock. These decals will speak for themselves. You can see they really pop. They make the card bold and beautiful, so you don't have to do this step. If you want to, however, you're going to stamp shaded spruce ink onto the shaded spruce cardstock with a few of the snowflakes. So I mounted kind of that medium one, and then the small one, and the extra small one. I did try with the largest one, but I kind of found it took over too much of the paper, and I didn't really get to use the other stamps as I went. So if you're doing something like this, we always want to stamp on a scrap piece of paper. So grab that for your workspace, so we don't get ink all over our desks. And we're going to start with the largest of the snowflakes. Largest snowflake is going to go in the bottom right-hand corner and the top. You do not need to worry about the middle of this project because, as you can see, you're not seeing anything there. So we're really only focusing on 2 opposite corners here. So now we're going to build out a little with that small little guy here, going kind of on opposite ends of your snowflake. And I guess I don't need to do the middle. It feels really empty not to. And then we're going to fill in some of those minor spaces with this small snowflake here. Don't worry if there's still white space. We want that. We don't need to fill in everywhere. This is meant to just add a little bit of character to the background. If you feel like building your snowflakes, you can also stamp off and do like a faint snowflake in the background back here. Then you've got a little bit of tone and it kind of looks fun. It is completely up to you though if you add that feature to the background, okay? So this looks great, but before we finish it, I'm going to grab a little sponge dauber. You can also grab your blends marker if you want, or a blender pen, and we're going to come and start rubbing the edge here gently. I'm also going to build a little color by just rubbing all along this side. So I'll lift my hand up in a second and you can see the difference between the side that we've added some character to and the side that's pretty just bold and plain at the moment. So go around, add a little bit of character. This is where your blending brush would probably make your life quicker, but I like the sponge dauber for the edging on my cards. Just adding a little bit of color around there. Okay, then we've got that sponge dauber. Give yourself a nice bold edge. Again, completely optional. If you don't have these things or you don't want to do it, A, a sponge would work. You can chop up a kitchen sponge. And B, a Kleenex could help you spread the color out. And C, you don't need to do it. It is extra steps and techniques that I'm just showing you so that hopefully you are learning and enjoying something new today. Okay, and then we're going to get super crazy and add a little bit of splatter to the background to make it even prettier. Now, you can splatter with the shaded spruce blender pen and it would give you a nice greenish tone. Or you can grab my favorite thing in the world, the Wink of Stella ink. And we are going to just make sure there's a little bit of ink in the chamber. So you kind of press that together so there's ink in there. And then using the lid, you're going to basically brush the tip of your marker onto the lid here. And it will start to spritz a little bit. You can kind of see a few dots. The other option is you can just tap, tap, tap with your fingers. This can get a little bit messier. You can see it starting to kind of come off the workspace when I do it like that. And I know it's a little tricky to see. It needs to A, dry, and B, you might need to be up close to see this, but it's worth it. It's so pretty. And you just need to focus on those edges because we're covering up the middle so nobody needs to know that it's there. We'll do one more. We're going to be super generous today. There we go. Okay, I'm happy with that. That's going to set. So we're going to just let this dry for a second because that Wink of Stella needs a moment. And we're going to build our snowflake, the large snowflake here, and you're going to emboss your sentiment while you're waiting, okay? So we're going to start with the large snowflake and those 3 branches. 1, 2, 3. You will need either some liquid glue or a glue dot will work as well to be able to get these guys in. So the glue dot would just go right in the center. I'm just going to use glue because it's very easy to do. And I'm going to start just with one of them and a little bit of glue on that center. You can leave this on your table and just rest your snowflake over top. So you can see it does hide quite a bit of the branches. You're just kind of having a couple poke out. If you wanted more, then you would cut this guy and you could, in essence, have the 3 of them poking out like so if you really wanted to, but I thought it would be really nice just to have the one, so I kind of moved him. I need to put this back. There we go. There's the one. Okay, now lining these other ones up should be pretty easy, because all we're going to do is we're going to put a dot of glue onto this guy, and we're going to build. You might want to poke your head out the top, but overall it probably is easy enough just to see evenly spaced. And another one. 3 whole piles of these. Like so. There we go. This would also make a really cute snowflake just out of these inside pieces, and people have also been known to put them onto the front of the snowflake and build, you know, a very dimensionalized snowflake that way. We're not doing that today, but it is an option for you. Okay, I need some large dimensionals because we're going to cover that circle set completely, make sure it's just all ready to go, and then we'll just add a few dimensionals around the perimeter here, and we're ready to pop this onto the front of our card right here. Before I do that though, I am going to show you one more optional thing that you can do to this piece, and if you're still waiting for it to dry, then you could go ahead and stamp your sentiment so it's ready to go. This is just a piece of cherry cobbler that's about 3/8 of an inch to a half, depending on how accurate your trimmer is. So 1/2 inch, let's say, by 3, and I do 3.5 because that gives me enough to kind of grip the end of the strip with my fingers, and then I just trim it down to size when I'm done embossing. I did emboss with the Celebrate the Season sentiment and some gold embossing powder. So that I did ahead of time because I knew this was already going to be long enough. Here's an optional thing. Okay, you want to ruffle up a little bit of an edge. We're going to take some open blade scissors and just run them along the edge of your paper, away from yourself, please. It will make a tiny bit of a mess, but you can go as much or as little as you want just to break up those fibers. And look at the difference between that kind of rubbed edge and the straight edge. It adds so much character. I love it. So I often do this to my projects. And I just think it's perfect. This cardstock is nice and strong. It can stand the weight of your hand, but don't dig into it, of course. And there you go. You could go more if you wanted, but I think we're good with that. Okay, this guy, let's just start building. Let's put our snowflake on first, okay? So we're going to take off this backing. And just keep in mind you are allowed to come off of this greenery a tiny bit because it's still got a whole card base to go on top of. But don't put half the snowflake off of it. You can just have a little branch or something hanging off the edge. So I decided I didn't want it completely straight, so I kind of just tilted it to the side up in the top left here. And then I'm going to come over and I'm going to grab the medium snowflake that I also cut out. This guy is going to get popped up on a dimensional as well. And he'll go just right below this. When you add your sentiment, keep in mind we have already put one dimensional underneath this snowflake. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually pile 2 dimensionals on top of each other to make sure it's the right height. Okay, so 1 dimensional. That makes it even with the snowflake. Now 2 dimensionals, because we want it popping out further than the snowflake. And then we might as well just put your other dimensional right on top of the little snowflake. There's Celebrate the Season. Right there. Okay, we can do all the other decorating once this is on the card. So we're going to put dimensionals on the back here. 2, 3. I'm not using black dimensionals for any specific purpose. They're just on my table. You can use the white ones. 3 and 4, and bring your card base back. Here's your choice. You can be perfectly prim and proper and put it on straight, or you can add a little risk to your life and tilt it tiny bit towards the left or the right. I'm not going to judge you either way. Okay, we have some decorating to do. First off, we're going to add in those little pine cones. So if your card ended up looking different than mine, of course you might put these pine cones in somewhere else, you know, if you didn't have the space or you did go straight. Either way, they're going to be fine. So all we're going to do is take a tiny bit of glue on the back of these, just on the bottom part of it. You don't need to worry about the top. And because your snowflakes popped up, they will tuck right in the back. Nobody's going to know that your glue is there. And we'll just add that right there. And I decided to do 2 of them kind of together over here. So we'll go 1. And I'm going to quickly add the next one before I kind of make sure they're in exactly the position I want. That's what I like about glue is you have a couple minutes to move things around. Actually, that's quite good. Okay, to finish, we have so many gorgeous embellishments out there, but the one set that I was so happy carried over from last year is these little berries. So there's a trio that's all connected, and I use that for the center. And there's also these individual ones that you can use to decorate. So that's what I decided to go with. You can use clear as well if you're doing a different sort of flower, or perhaps if you've embossed the flower with white, the clear would actually look really sharp. It'll look like little icicles and glass beads on it. Or you can take a blends marker and you can actually color these. You can't color them with the Stampin' marker because the ink doesn't dry the same. But with the blends marker, you could color them red if you wanted more red ones. But here we go. We're just going to lift up this trio all in one shot, and that'll go in the center here. You can, depending on where you put your sentiment, put a set down on this one too. This guy I kind of covered up that center. This one though, let's try it. Let's do it. Sneak one of these in there and see what he looks like. I like it. That's cute. Okay, and then we're just going to add a few random ones around to make it pretty because we like decor and decorations. There we go. And there is a fun and beautiful holiday card for you to recreate. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and please do make sure you check out the other ladies' cards and join us again. We will have another video for you next week, and if you check out my website, there's also some new online exclusives that just started this week. So if you want to check them out. See you guys later. Bye.